Hey everyone, bit of a different video for you today, bit of a serious topic. I want to talk about my education and the advantages that I received and the education I got, which has allowed me to create this channel and all the videos you enjoy, and the fact that this education is at extreme risk of being denied to students in the future. I got my degree in archaeology and anthropology from the University of Sheffield. When I went in 2007, it was one of the largest archaeology departments in the country, and the education I received reflected that. I could select from a wide range of topics, and it really opened my mind to different aspects of human history that I had never considered before, like prehistory. I went on a lot of excavations. I don't even know how many I went on. I went digging every summer and participated in really cool projects, like exactly what you think you would be doing when you do an archaeology degree. I had the opportunity to do. Roman sites, medieval sites, Neolithic sites, Bronze Age barrows, a World War II fighter plane even. We also did projects within the community, like the reconstruction of a Bronze Age house in a community farm in an area of Sheffield that is not so well off. I got to study abroad for a semester at the University of Pilsen, and again followed them on all sorts of crazy excavations. It was fantastic. What can I say? This channel would not exist without Sheffield University and the education I got there. But sadly, the archaeology department, all those great experiences I had, is at extreme risk of closure. A group within the university has recommended that the department be shut down. Here to talk with me about that are Hugh Wilmot and Umberto Albarella of the archaeology department. So I think from what I've been reading, it's best if we take this back a few years. I was a student there from 2007 until 2010. And when I was there, and certainly when I started, it was one of the biggest archaeology departments in the country, I believe.
That's true.
And it seems like long before this decision to potentially close the department was made by this very opaque review process, to put it mildly, that there had been like a lack of investment in the department. Is that fair to say?
Oh, I think that's very fair to say. I mean, in 2010, we had 25 permanent academic members of staff, and that has just gradually through the decade diminished to well, actually less than half. When there's now 10 of us that are full-time equivalent staff. So you can see we've had over a halving of the staff in that decade. Now, I think all departments, their sizes go up and down a little bit and that sort of thing. That's entirely natural. But, the sort of rate of decline we've seen over the last decade has just got to the point where, it begins to become unsustainable.
Yeah, it seems so. It's such a shame that it has declined so much in terms of teaching staff, for sure.
Well, I mean, it's a shame on several levels. For the students, it means there's just simply less that we can do. There's less
Mhm.
expertise in the department. And, perhaps this is secondary, but for staff who are in the department, we have to do so much more. And it's actually harder for us to sort of focus on giving a really good education that we'd want to, because the levels of administration and all those other things in the university world, they don't go down as your staff numbers do. And of course, then
Yeah.
there's increasing pressure on getting grants and that sort of thing. So, the last decade has seen the job coming a lot harder. And inevitably it means we're not going to be doing as well as we did 10 years ago.
Now, the university has said that their concern is basically the declining student numbers. Speaking to Umberto yesterday, or maybe on Friday, he said that the department had come up with various solutions, such as admitting students who had received a lower grade at A level, perhaps to boost their numbers. Which, by the way, is how I got into the university. I did not hit my target A-level grades. And the
Stefan,
university
can I let you into a secret?
Yeah.
I would not get into the university with the A-level grades I got.
Really?
Now, obviously, A-levels were harder back in the 1990s.
Oh, well, of course, that's what they say. Yeah,
but it's a serious point.
Yeah.
And you know what Umberto said is absolutely correct. But we used to, as you know yourself, recruit students at a lower level of A-level grade because archaeology is not taught at school. And inevitably students don't come pre-prepared with good A-level grades in, you know, if you were going into history, you would have studied history from the age of 6 onwards. Well, you don't have that in archaeology. So we used to, you know, accept students at lower grades than other disciplines, but they would end up getting degrees that were just as good. But the university has decided to raise across the board, irrespective of subject, the grades to an artificially inflated level because they believe that will promote excellence, this awful word they're always bounding around. And of course, that's hit subjects like ours that draw from slightly broader pools.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's there is something to be said for the fact that education in school is very different to education at a university level, and your performance in one does not necessarily predict your performance in the other at all. Am I right in thinking this whole situation started when, before COVID-19, the department was due to get more staff? Is that right?
What happened is that just before COVID, but also as a consequence of COVID, the university started a program of voluntary redundancy. And two of my senior colleagues, Peter Day and Paul Halstead, decided to take the opportunity and leave. I mean, Paul was due for retirement anyway, but even before, there were some other colleagues who were close to retirement and eventually retired. So we lost quite a lot of staff in a short time. And so there was a plan to try to have some replacements. And so my colleague, Caroline Jackson, is the head of the department, put together a business case for replacement, and that was accepted. But then COVID struck and basically froze everything. There has been a review that they imposed on us during COVID, and which seems to be a very kind of cruel, it's probably the word thing to do, you know, it's just, and also unfair. So they did this review that sounds like a very neutral term, but it really felt like we were put under trial. So they did this review and they produced a report as a consequence of the review that we are not supposed to see.
So you can't really defend yourself at all against whatever is in this report. How can you, give your feedback on the issue?
Yeah, absolutely. All we have is that when after the review, they made us wait for a long time. And then at some point, the pro-vice chancellor had a meeting with us, and she provided some form of explanations of why they were going a certain way with a PowerPoint presentation. We weren't even provided with a PowerPoint. The only reason we managed to get a copy is because one of my colleagues was doing the kind of printing of the screen on each slide. I wouldn't have even thought of that, but he did. So otherwise we wouldn't even have that. But the PowerPoint presents a number of rather generic arguments. It's full of mistakes and there hasn't been much discussion. Basically in this meeting in which our fate really was decided, yes, then the university executive board took the decision, but it was very clear to us which direction things were going in that meeting. And after the presentation of the pro-vice chancellor, we had 15 minutes to discuss and ask questions.
Yes, it's a review, but it wasn't a consultation. And the review took the form of, we were invited to a series of 1-hour meetings, which were quick fire question and answer. We weren't able to discuss anything. We were actually specifically told not to prepare anything. So we sort of just had lots of questions fired at us, which I think we answered very well. And then that was it. There was no dialogue, no conversation, no discussion about how we thought we could go forward, how we could sort of develop our plans. It was all done over on one day in a series of 4 meetings. And that was it, 4 1-hour meetings. So you might call it a review. I would call it a very swift trial, potentially.
Yeah. Show trial.
Well, show trials are in public.
Well, true. Yeah.
This was all in private, and you're absolutely right. There is a report on the results of that review that no one is allowed to see.
I mean, this seems like gossip, but I did hear that records of the meetings where the department's future was under review were accidentally deleted or accidentally destroyed.
Well, it's not a rumor, and it's not accidental. When the review met, the review panel met briefly with some of the students, a selected sort of bunch of the students, and one of those students subsequently asked for a transcript of the record, the minutes that were taken, and was told that they had indeed been deleted, and the content had been then just compiled into the report that of course no one can see, and that was an email sent back to the student from the university. So I don't think it's a rumor. The fact that they just deleted any records seems not terribly professional, and that's probably a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, and certainly adds to the impression that this decision was taken regardless of what was included in this report.
But the financial argument for the university itself is just totally unconvincing, because obviously they associated the reductions in number with the fact that they say there will be a financial decline. Basically, you're not bringing enough money to the university. But as it is, we don't even have a deficit as a department at the moment, unlike many other departments in the university.
I mean, I can only imagine how the students feel, because, I mean, for me, like, if hypothetically I was in my 2nd or 3rd year of university and they closed the department, I don't know if I'd have gone back. I think it would have kicked me out of education for a long time. Yeah. I don't know if I would have finished my degree, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a concern. Well, the students absolutely live it. All stages, the undergraduates, the master students, and the PhD students. Absolutely. Well, obviously, I haven't talked to a single one, but I've talked to enough of them to know, and they are campaigning very hard with us. I think that's the other thing that has been nice. Staff and student totally united. We have made it just a single front, and I mean, for the students, it's very concerning at all levels. As you said, undergraduates in the middle of their degree. Okay, the university is saying it will guarantee that you will be able to complete your degree. And I'm confident that they will respect that. But, in what conditions are you going to complete that degree? I think that it's very unclear.
Devastated and upset and angry and just absolutely not knowing what's going on, because there's been virtually no communication with the students. There's been no communication with the staff beyond telling us this is what's going to happen. That's all we've been told. You've got to bear in mind the students who are going to be affected are primarily undergraduates in their 1st and 2nd year. Now, those undergraduates who are currently in their 1st and 2nd year have just been through an 18-month pandemic. Mm-hmm. So they've had a pretty crummy time of it. already. We've done our best. I think our students have been very appreciative about how we've carried on, but none of them have had a normal education. And then the pandemic seems to be potentially not going away, but at least we're beginning to be able to operate a bit more normally. And then they get hit with this just straight out of the blue. And it's kind of, another smack in the face for them, causing uncertainty and, all sorts of stress. And there seems to be very little recognition, in fact, zero recognition of that from the university. The university is legally obliged to continue their education so they can complete their degrees. And they have said they have something called a student protection plan, but to date, as of the 14th of the month, no one knows what this student protection plan actually is. Yeah. So students will be taught, they will complete their degrees, but beyond that, we don't know who will be teaching them, how will they be taught. That I have a strong suspicion they may be encouraged in some ways, perhaps if they are interested in more historical things, perhaps they might be encouraged to transfer to an alternative degree like history, but they won't be forced to, I have to say that. But as yet, despite the fact that this review took place in February, no communication has been made about how will they be taught and what form will that take.
Have you had any response from the city, different organizations?
Huge response. Everybody's with us. They are all shocked, upset, disgusted by what is happening. They can't believe it. I always say that we are as a department, we have always been the exact opposite of the classic academics in ivory towers. We are just the opposite of that. We just work with the communities. We're well embedded with the city. This is why I was saying that, we are really working, and our campaign to keep the department open is also in the interest of the city. And the reputation of the city, also the standing of the city, because if archaeology goes, that is really a blow to the reputation of the city as a place of culture and a place of activity. And as I said, I'm glad that you mentioned our work in areas which are less well off. We have it's really something on which we have invested a lot of energy and time to work with people who are less privileged, and also to keep the doors of the university open.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've had support from all levels of the community. We're currently involved with, a city regeneration project of the Castlegate area, which is one of the most rundown parts of the city, and we've been sort of inputting into getting government levelling up funding to help with its regeneration. Probably closer to your heart, I suspect, is that the department's involved with supporting Creswell Crags in its bid to become a World Heritage Site, as well as the smaller community stuff as well. And, Sheffield, going back to 1905, when it was founded by entrepreneurs, businessmen from the city of Sheffield. And in its manifesto, when they were sort of lobbying government for a university, the first line in that said, "A university for the people." And that was very much the way that Sheffield was set up, as a good provincial university to serve its local community, its local region. The petition that was set up by one of our students, has got over 42,000 signatures, obviously not just from the local community, but from the heritage profession more widely. 2,000 letters have been sent to the Vice Chancellor. We've got, people who are sort of, stalwarts of the city. So the city council, various MPs of the city of completely different political sort of flavors, from the Conservatives through to the Labour Party, through to the Greens, have all written in support of us. So it's kind of at all levels and all tiers of civic life here, but the university is just kind of ignoring that. and barely responding. Well, they respond with a stock letter.
I had seen that posted, yeah.
Yeah, well, that letter has gone to everyone, whether they are a local MP through to just somebody who's a bit concerned, who likes archaeology. There's been no attempt to really try and connect with anyone. It's just a very dismissive letter, as you will have seen.
Yeah, well, I did an email when this, when this all came about. There was the email list of people to email and show your consent to. I didn't even get the stock email. They clearly don't know what a famous archaeology YouTube channel this is. They didn't even bother to send me the stock one. But
well, perhaps they're still handcrafting the reply. It's taking a long time.
Maybe. As I'm sure you can see, this is a really funny situation. One of the largest archaeology departments in the country, well embedded in its local community, national projects, international projects, has been consistently defunded and denied support, and now threatened with closure. This is despite the fact that it is a profitable department, not running at a deficit, although education should not be reduced to that. And despite the damage that it will do to its local community and to the reputation of the city and the university, it's just difficult to understand what the management of Sheffield are thinking. Yeah. You could say it would be an easy argument if the department was losing a lot of money, but as it isn't, I mean, the fact that it can't just be given a little bit of help and encouragement to carry on, it's just so short-sighted. It seems it's extremely short-sighted, it seems to me. This problem isn't even unique to Sheffield or just the archaeology department, sadly. Sheffield has gutted its language department also. Chester University is closing its archaeology department. And it's sad. It's sad because these universities, these departments really add to the culture and enrichment of life in a city and the ability of a local area to understand its history. Really what provides a lot of life and interest in these smaller cities that are not London or Oxford or Cambridge. It's really important to maintain cultural centres in a wide variety of areas in all cities. It's important for these things to be maintained. And if you are a student of Sheffield or Chester, good luck. My heart goes out to you. I hope you will succeed in defending your futures. I'm going to put the link to the petitions for Sheffield and Chester down in the description. If you are able to help in some way, even just signing the petition, I know that will be greatly appreciated.
And, at the end of the day, Stefan, I think you just have to do things out of a sense of justice, regardless of what the end result is. There are no whatever happens in this story, there are not going to be any winners or losers. I think we are already all losers because we should have never been put in this position. But my experience in life has always been, if there is injustice, you have to fight against it, regardless of any calculations that you can make whether you will win the battle or not.